welcome back to the Dive Line Podcast. I'm Craig, and not with me is Jim.
Hello.
So, of course, just like everybody else, we're in lockdown, and so Jim isn't with me, and I'm not with Jim, but together with the power of some editing and Zoom, hopefully we'll put something together for you so that no more weeks go past without us being able to put something out. So what have we got coming up today? We're going to do our Facebook draw. Jim will do that for us live in a moment. We've got some news for you. Jim's got a couple of particularly really interesting articles. We're going to talk about the environment, and then our main feature today is regarding your equipment. So with no further ado, Jim, over to you. I know you've got the names there.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've got a mask here with all the names in it. It's my own mask. It's a lovely mask. So yeah, we've got all the names in here. So I'm just going to actually pull one out now, and we have one here. How exciting!
Who won? Who won?
It is. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. It says Laurie Klaus.
Congratulations, Laurie.
Congratulations. We'll be sending you one of our fleeces with the Dive Line Podcast logo on it. We just need to get your contact details, obviously find out a size that you want, and we can send it off to you. Obviously, like Craig said, we're in social isolation at the moment, like the rest of the country. But we have been up to a few bits and pieces. So Craig, what have you been up to?
Well, like everybody else stuck indoors, the burning both ends of the candle as far as the internet's concerned, and so a lot of online resources, just been in taking time to. I have been working. I will say I have been sitting at home doing some work, and some of my work I am able to do from home. So been doing a few hours a day, but also had a lot of time to look at some online resources, and actually really amazed at how much for divers there actually is online. Everyone's gone out of their way to make sure that there's a lot of content to keep people amused, to keep them educated, to keep them entertained. What about yourself, Jim?
Yeah, much the same really. Been looking at lots of online stuff to keep us all busy, not just myself, but the family as well. So we've all been doing things and, going out for nice long walks with the dog, which, as a family, that's a really nice thing to do. We're quite lucky. We've got a big open space and a nice big field right behind our house. So that's been really nice. I don't think the dogs like it too much. They actually hide in the morning now because I think they've never been walked so much for so long. I don't think they can cope with it, but they hide in the morning, so that's been quite nice. But actually, like yourself, I've done a bit of work as well, having to supply bits and pieces to the food industry and online grocery companies. So there's been bits and pieces. Obviously, we're restricted on what we can do, like everybody else, but we've just got to keep an eye on social media. There's loads of things for us to do, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the things that I noticed that jumped out at me, Paddy if you go on Paddy's website, they have a whole calendar of something happening every single day in April, and you can log in. Sorry, say again, Jim.
Yeah, sorry. I was just thinking that, not just Paddy, is there? There's Raid as well. I think have got some stuff going on, and other organisations and agencies are doing something. So no matter who you're with, there's something to do, and they're all bringing stuff out on a regular basis, aren't they?
Yeah, Raid, I was just about to come on to that. Great what they've done. They've put every one of their courses online free of charge. So right from the very first triad dive through to technical diving, you can go in, do the online part of the course, even if you can't get wet, of course. And then you've got the quizzes. So just to go back and, remember what is Dawson's Law, how many of us remember, and go back and do all of those things. Brilliant of Ray to do that. As I mentioned, Paddy have got a full calendar. If you're into your photography, some of the photographers that have obviously had lots of time on their hands to sit there and go through their libraries and post some incredible shots and some hints about better photography and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, there's a lot for a diver sitting at home to be able to find on social media at the moment.
I think it's nice to see how inventive everyone's getting as well. I mean, I've seen lots of things, as you probably have, through the social media, diving at home, which is always quite amusing, you know, how people are coming up with different things. And I think we're going to try a few little things, aren't we, to see if we can add to that. But yeah, I think that's quite amusing. What people think about and how they think about it and what they're doing is amazing.
Yeah, I must say I've got my twin tanks at home, Jim. And I was so tempted to get the paddling pool out and fill it up until I realised that my dry suit and my back plate and my wing are all in the office, so I can't put my twin set on.
Yeah, well, I've got mine all at home with me, so yeah, I can probably do something. But yeah, it's just really funny watching what people have been up to while they've been stuck at home. It's been quite amusing.
Yeah, so there are some positives though, Jim, of all of us being stuck at home, and I'm sure a lot of people have noticed how clear the skies are and seen the images online of places like Venice of how clear the water is. You know, they reckon that there's been a 30% improvement in the air quality from March 2019 to March 2020, and obviously without all the cars, the trucks, the buses, the carbon dioxide or nitrogen dioxide in the air, the NO2, is massively reduced. You've been noticing the same, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, you know, although we're all sort of a little bit frustrated being stuck at home and not being able to go out and do things, it's obviously clearly had a massive impact on the planet, and the planet is starting to do well. And you know, you can see all sorts of recovery, like say, like Venice, and I mean that all being the water being clear in Venice is amazing, isn't it? So, but one of the things I've actually seen really in the last couple of days, I've seen two things, but one of them was about the ozone layer. The ozone layer is showing signs of continuing recovery from man-made damage and is likely to heal fully by 2060. So the measures taken to repair the damage will also have an important beneficial effect on climate change, as some of the gases that cause the ozone layer to thin and in places disappear also contribute to warming the atmosphere. Recovery from the holes and thinning caused by aerosol chemicals has progressed at a rate of about 1 to 3% a decade since the year 2000, meaning the ozone layer over the northern hemisphere should heal completely by the 2030s, which, you know, that's 10 years time, and it's going to fully heal. Amazing.
That is fantastic news, Jim.
I think it's incredible. You know, and that's only if current rates are sustained, of course. So obviously, for those that don't know, I'm sure everybody does, but the ozone layer is a protective shield in the Earth's stratosphere, which absorbs most of the ultraviolet radiation reaching us from the sun.
Blocks out the harmful rays.
Absolutely, yeah. So without the ozone layer, it would be nearly impossible for anything to survive on the planet, which it's pretty important, isn't it? Yeah. So in the past, human use of substances like chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, caused such life-threatening damage to the ozone layer that in 1987, an international treaty called the Montreal Protocol was adopted to ban them. So, and it just goes to show, sort of linking on to the difference we've seen in just the last few weeks, that, you know, a combined global action can make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, along those same lines, Jim, I tried to do one of Craig's facts.
Craig's facts.
I did a bit of research, and I tried to find out how many divers there are in the world, and it is difficult, but from lots of Googling and having some hours spare on the internet, I think that there are somewhere around 6 million divers and certified divers in the world. Now, if, let's say, only 25% of those are actually active divers, that's still 1.5 million divers that are not diving. So you're mentioning about the ozone repairing itself and you know, the lack of emissions and harmful gases being used. You think of the recovery of, you know, the none of those boats going out, all of those divers staying off the reefs. When we do eventually get back into the water, I just can't wait to see what it's like and if there's a visible improvement. I mean, unfortunately, there's good and bad divers, and we've all seen damage done by divers and damaged coral, and so again, another positive is that the reef systems and the environments that we dive in have got a chance to recover and repair themselves, and it can only be a good thing in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, the recovery can be so quick as well. So, you know, we don't know how long we're going to be in this situation, not just here in the UK, but around the world. So, you know, feasibly, it could be for the next couple of months, couldn't it? So that's not very long, but it could be just long enough to see some effects of the divers and boats and the pollution not taking place. So, yeah, it could be hugely beneficial.
So, Jim, you mentioned that you had a second piece of good environmental news.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think it's something I've read just in the last couple of days, really, same as the ozone layer. Yeah, this is about bacteria, really, and some really clever bacteria. So the plastic bottles we throw away today will be around for hundreds of years. It's one of the key reasons why the mounting plastic pollution problem, which is having a deadly effect on marine life, is so serious. And we all know the problems with plastic bottles, don't we? And we're all trying not to use plastic so much now, trying not to use the bottles, trying to get reusable cups and bottles.
Single-use plastic.
But scientists recently discovered a strain of bacteria that can literally eat the plastic used to make the bottles. In 2016, scientists from Japan tested different bacteria from a bottle recycling plant and found that Ideonella psychonesis 201-F6, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, could digest the plastic used to make single-use drinks bottles, which is polyethylene terephthalate, or PET. So how this works, it secretes an enzyme, which is a type of protein that can speed up chemical reactions, known as PET-ASE, so PETase. This splits certain chemical bonds in the PET, leaving smaller molecules that the bacteria can absorb using the carbon in them as a food source. Basically, this bacteria is eating plastic.
That's incredible.
Now, you think of all these bottles that are out there, and if they could develop this, we know bacteria and viruses and things like that is top news at the moment. We know they can multiply and spread and in large numbers and quickly. You know, there must be some way that these bacteria can be used to just eat all this plastic and get rid of it, and then it won't be around for hundreds of years, will it?
Although I hope news like that doesn't make people, the general public, more careless with bottles, because they think, oh, it doesn't matter, the bacteria will eat it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is just initial studies, isn't it? It's something they found in 2016. It's only now hitting the news 4 years later. So, yeah, I mean, it's only new studies into this bacteria. So it's not something that's now there and we can do what we like with plastic bottles again. But yeah, it's
sure.
You know, so I mean, just to finish that off, it says although other bacterial enzymes were already known to slowly digest PET, this new enzyme had apparently evolved specifically for this job. So this suggests it might be faster and more efficient, and so have the potential for use in biorecycling. So yeah, they're saying potential.
So interesting that should specifically mention the plastic PET used in the manufacture of plastic bottles and single-use throwaway water bottles. But I guess is what you're referring to there. But does that have the same effect, this bacteria, on things like plastic packaging and bags? We see so many plastic bags when we're diving, and the big downside of that is turtles feed on jellyfish, and a plastic bag looks exactly like a jellyfish, and we've seen it in the stomachs of dolphins and whales.
Yeah, I mean, if it's made of polyethylene, then yeah.
Fantastic.
I think with the bacteria, what they do, they adapt to their surroundings and their environment, don't they? So this one has obviously developed, has been a bacteria that ate a certain type of plastic maybe, but over time, because of the plastic bottles, has actually developed and now just feeds on just plastic bottles. So yeah, I mean, anything that's made of the same material, which is this PET, then could effectively be eaten by this bacteria.
Fantastic news, that, Jim.
Yeah, I think so. I think those two news items, if you like, two bits of news, are so positive, and it shows as a planet and as a race, as a human race, we can actually start to make some changes now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really good news. One of the things we wanted to talk about today was equipment, because I read a story recently in the last few days about a diver that was a relatively new diver that was going diving with a slightly more experienced guy. But what they'd failed to do within the excitement of going diving, hadn't done the proper safety checks and hadn't looked at the equipment. And it turns out, in this story, it didn't end well, and it was due to equipment failure, which got me to thinking that, although I checked my gear a month ago, I kind of went back out into my garage and started checking it again, just going over certain little things and checking all of my individual components of my system to make sure everything was ready for when I go diving. And it wasn't just to make sure they're ready, to make sure they're in test as well. So, I mean, we'll come on to that towards the end, but, my regs they're going to be due for a service in May, and my tank, my cylinder, is going to be ready for a new inspection in August. Quite feasibly, we could be here till September, couldn't we?
We could, but also on the same token, it could be May, June that we're all able to go back diving again just when your regs need servicing.
Exactly, and that's what got me to thinking that, we're going to be desperate to go diving. We're going to be excited to go diving. Some of us more than others, because we've waited far, far, far too long to go diving.
I know, 3 weeks for me.
3 weeks, yeah. I'm coming up to probably about 12 months. So, I'm really excited and really desperate to go diving, but I need to do it safely, and we all need to do it safely. So no matter what's going on, you might be going just for a 5-10 metre bimble, as we call it, but you still need to be safe. So we thought it would be a good idea to go through some of the equipment, some of the potential issues that you might have, and to recognise them, and just don't go diving unless it's right.
Yeah, you just mentioned masks, Jim, and that's interesting because it isn't something that for most people it would immediately spring to mind as something that would be that you would actually check, because it's just a mask. But what are you looking for?
Well, I mean, if you think about a mask, the components of the mask, you've got a skirt around the mask, haven't you? So depending on how that's been stored, you might find that that's got a little tear in it. It might have degraded slightly, so it's going to leak a lot, isn't it? So if it leaks a lot, it's not going to be a great dive. And we all know sort of small problems can turn into much larger problems when you're underwater, especially for a newer diver. So, make sure that skirt hasn't got any rips or tears in it. It's not degraded at all. It hasn't been sitting in the sunlight. So, or the strap on, that might be having the same issues. What we have to travel quite a long way to our dive sites here, and it could take us 3 hours. I wouldn't want to get all the way to that dive site, go to put my mask on, and it snaps.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't want that to happen, do you? Okay, that's not so much of a safety issue on the surface, but underwater, that could break underwater. I mean, you have a spare mask, don't you? You carry a spare mask.
Always, never dive without a spare mask in my pocket.
And why do you have a spare mask? In case that one breaks.
Yeah, absolutely. But actually, it's interesting, Jim. Do you know it's been quite a while since I've actually checked my spare mask, and so when we finish today, I'm going to go and get my spare mask out, because it's easy to forget about that one, because it's just the spare that's in the pocket, and it's in the pocket of my dry suit, and that's where it lives. I'm going to get that out and check the strap and check that's all good, because imagine you had a problem and your spare mask has got a problem too.
Well, exactly, and this is the point. You know, this is the point where what we don't want to do is have an influx of divers going diving. Let's say that the social distancing measures are relaxed a little bit sometime in July, and let's say it's July the 15th, and July the 16th, everyone's gone off to their various dive sites and wants to go diving. There could be an untold amount of issues and incidents, not all life-threatening, but incidents where people haven't done the proper checks or taken the right precautions before they've gone diving.
Sure.
You know, we just want to make sure that, you know, we're not going to cover everything, are we? We're not going to cover every single item in the dive system, because everyone dives a different system. But we can cover some of the basics. We can go through some of the potential issues that might arise, to things to look at, and hopefully that'll help you. And it's just about, don't go diving if it's not safe to dive. Make sure your equipment is checked before you go. You know, we could be, like we said, we could be here till September. Let's say absolutely. If we are, well, I'm checking my gear all the time. So I checked it a month ago. I checked it again the other day. I will probably check it again in a few weeks' time. Not necessarily all the checks about skirts on masks and fins, but putting my system together.
But you just mentioned fins, Jim. So obviously we've just spoken about masks and straps. I suppose on the, again, fins are something a lot of people wouldn't think of. I presume you're looking at the straps on your fins?
Yeah, exactly. You got the same thing, haven't you? Same issue. You know, I use a bungee cord on my fins, but some have straps and buckles. So buckles could get broken. They might not attach properly. The straps might have degraded again, or ripped or torn, much like the skirt or strap on a mask. My bungee cord might have frayed in some way. There's untold things. If you don't check it, you'll not know until it's too late, until you get in the water. Ideally at the surface, you're putting the fin on and it snaps there. But again, if you've spent time putting all your gear together, traveling to a dive site, and your fin strap breaks, it's bit silly, and we've all got time at the moment.
Yeah, okay, so let's focus on the actual kit. So we've got fins and masks. What else?
What about your regulator? You know, my regulator is out of service. I got it serviced last May, and so it's going to need servicing again. Now, I haven't used it since May, but it's just been sitting there. So in some respects, it's probably worse. Well, it's just been sitting there, not being used at all.
Yeah, it's worse than constantly using it.
It will need another service. I won't get in the water until that's serviced again. So, you know, because I don't want to jump in and we say, oh, we're going to dive down to 22 metres and look at a wreck. I don't want to do that with regs that I haven't had serviced and haven't had them looked at.
No, particularly in cold water, if it's so easy to get a free flow in the cold water we dive in here in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not much warm water here, is there?
No.
Not really. So, but everyone's regs are different. It's just a case of just try and have a look when you had it last serviced. Don't take any risks. But you need to check the mouthpiece on your reg. Your mouthpiece might have degraded slightly, or last time you used it, you might have bitten through it a little bit too hard, and so it's no good. These things can be checked and replaced and changed quite quickly and easily. I have a big spares kit that, you know, with all those sorts of things in. So if my mouthpiece was degraded in any way, I could just swap it out and put a new one on.
Yeah, me too. And cable ties, and, you know, I have a big spares kit that always goes diving with me, even if I'm travelling.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got all of those bits and pieces just in case. But, you know, I'd rather do it at home, checking the gear at home, rather than get to the dive site and have an issue. and even worse, get under the water, under the surface, and have an issue there.
Also, very easy to check your BCD at home. You've got your function of your LPI. You know, if you haven't got a tank at home, at least you can still blow it up yourself orally, and put in as much air as you can and check the overpressures are working, your dump valves are working, and all your straps and velcros and buckles are all present, correct, and working. And when was the last time that you had your BCD serviced? And consider whether that should be taken into your local dive store too.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had my BCD service probably about 3 months ago. I took it into the local dive store and dive centre, and they serviced it for me. But yeah, at the same time, it's good. You mentioned buckles and straps and Velcro. You know, some of those, while they've been stored, like in my garage, that isn't the only thing in my garage. Things get moved around and things get stood on, things get dropped on top of it. And so you could have buckles that are broken. You could have straps that have torn or ripped. You could have the Velcro. Sometimes your Velcro doesn't do up. So you've got time to clean out that Velcro now to make sure you've got a nice secure fastening on that. So yeah, there's so many different things you can look at and do while you've got this time. And like you said, I think doing that with your BCD, doing orally inflating, and why don't you put your gear together? Put that system together and almost do a pre-dive check with your gear, or a buddy check, the BWRAF as we know it. Why don't you do that? All right, you're not going to have a buddy because you're social distancing, but you can still put that system together, and that's what I do to make sure it all works. I've got my cylinder, I've got my BCD, I've got my regulator, and I can put that system together to make sure it all works. Same as you would just before you go diving. Well, you can do that at home, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I presume, I mean, obviously we're making a bit of an assumption that some people have their own tanks, but if they do, they can certainly do that. But also have a look at your tank. What's your service date? When was it last inspected? When's the next inspection for your tank? And, you know, do you know that that tank, when that date of when it runs out?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, mine runs out in August. So it's still safe to use at the moment. And, you know, if we come out of social distancing in July, then I'm okay, aren't I? But if it's not until September, that tank realistically isn't safe to use.
Well, the dive centre, wherever we dive, certainly won't refill it. If you've got a full tank now, you'll get one dive. No one will refill it if it's out of date.
Exactly. And so, you know, but it was just me thinking while I was doing it, and I was putting my gear together, and I was thinking, oh, blimey, if we don't come out of this for a while and this sort of lockdown continues, then I have got some equipment that I can't use.
There's one that I'd like to mention because it's often forgotten, and that's the O-rings. So we have O-rings obviously in tanks and regulators, but a lot of people forget about the cameras and the torches. I mean, I always remove my O-rings out my camera if I know I'm not diving the following day or the following week, and put them in a see-through baggie and put them inside the housing. But not many people do that with their torches and wonder why their torches flood when they haven't used it for a year. Though left it all screwed up and tight, they take the battery out, charge the battery up, put it back together, go and flood the torch because those O-rings have spent a year compressed. And so take your O-rings out, lubricate them, and leave them out in a baggie or loose inside the torch or the camera, ready to put back in before you go diving next time.
Yeah, brilliant point. And like I say, with the regulators as well, you'll have little O-rings on there. Just make sure you have got one for a start. You know, make sure there's one there. If there isn't, get a new one. If it's damaged, put a new one in. It just takes 5 seconds to do that. So you again, getting all that way to that dive site or getting underwater and having an issue, it's just not worth it. So check this gear, check it all. Another one that you thought about earlier on, Craig, was a reel, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And we spoke on episode 1 about DSMBs and SMBs, and they're stored forever, rolled up until that day you need to use it. And same with your reel. How many people lay out their reel? I extended mine last week. We had a bit of sunny day, so I went up and down the garden with my reel, checked my line. There was 2 reasons for that. I wanted to know how long it was because I couldn't remember if it was a 50-metre reel or a 75-metre reel. So I measured up one length and then went up and down a few times. Pardon?
You have been bored, haven't you?
Yeah. But you know, the worst thing that can happen is you need to use your DSMB on the next time you go diving. You hook it up onto your reel, send it up, and your line breaks because you know a mouse in the garage has chewed it or whatever reason. And so yeah, that's something else that, you know, whilst we've got so much time on our hands, you can actually physically check those things.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I mean, it's not just a mouse or a rat or something worse biting through your line. It could be caught up, couldn't it? You know, if it, you know, often that I've sent up my SMB, DSMB, and it's got caught for whatever reason because I haven't done the proper checks the last time I used it and stored it and put it away. It happens, doesn't it?
One bit of advice, because I just did it last week, if you're going to unreel your reel and lay it out and wind it back on, get somebody to help you, and when you wind it on, let them run it through their fingers so there's a little bit of tension on it when it comes back in, so that you know it's nice, and you don't want it over tight because that's how you can get jams. But you also, if you just leave it on the floor and wind it up, it will be too loose. You need somebody to have it running through their fingers.
Cool. Okay, so what else have we got? We've got dry suits. So what potentially? Sorry,
seals.
Yeah, so the seals on the dry suit, what are we looking for on there? The same sort of thing, really, aren't we? They're making sure that they're not ripped or torn, make sure there's no degrading of the neoprene or the rubber that's on the, depending on which exposure suit you've got, really. But yeah, I mean, mine's a neoprene dry suit, so I'll check the neck seal, I'll check the wrist seals, and I'll check the boots. You know, just to make sure there's no rips or tears, because otherwise you're going to get very wet and very cold. So you can test that as well. There are ways of testing your dry suit out. You could, it's very crude, but you could get 2 sort of fizzy drinks bottles, put those in the sleeve.
Balloon. You put a balloon in your neck seal and in your wrist seal and blow it up until it's just tight enough that the balloon seals your neck and wrist seals.
Yeah, anything you can use. So you could put a football in the neck seal, couldn't you? Yeah, most people have a football or a ball of some sort, or fizzy drinks bottles. Put those in the sleeves and put some air into it. If you do have a cylinder at home, put some air into it and spray it with some soapy water or something just to see if there's any bubbles that appear. Put it in your bath. You could put it, just, you've got time to check for any leaks or any holes, then it's an ideal time to do it now, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think what we're trying to say there, Jim, is seeing as we've got so much time on our hands, all of us have got a lot of money invested in kit. Use the time wisely, check all your kit, so when we do get back in the water, we're able to do it safely. But what about us, Jim? I know you're a bit of an Adonis. Yeah, we could do with some fitness before we go diving again. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I'm no different to anybody else. I think you can tell I am not a Greek god, and you're not either. So, you know, but fitness is really important. And, you know, I'm spending a lot of time eating, but maybe not getting the exercise I would normally.
Yeah, well, these man boobs, Jim, they are part of my buoyancy control.
I should think they're quite expensive as well, aren't they?
all bought and paid for.
Absolutely. I'm pretty much the same. I was going to the gym 3 times a week, at least 3 times a week. And now I'm down to taking the dog for a walk. It is quite a long walk, as I said before, but it's just one walk. One of the other things I have done, though, I've set myself up doing a Chester step test every day.
Doing a what, Jim? Sorry?
A Chester step test. So this is a way of testing your fitness, and as a dive professional, and here in the UK, we're governed by the HSE, so we have to have a health and safety executive medical, and one of the tests that they do is the Chester step test. So I've set myself up with that, with a little step and a metronome to get the timing right. And I'm doing that every day. So I'm doing that twice a day at the moment, just to make sure I'm keeping on top of my fitness. But there are other resources out there. I've seen that is it Joe Wicks? He's been doing stuff, Davina McCall. Lots of resources out there. It's just about keeping fit and keeping on, because we are exercising less, but probably eating how we did before, if not more.
Certainly eating more in this household.
But probably not eating the right things. So, you know, you're going to put a few pounds on. You said you've put on a stone already. Yeah. I've put on only a couple of pounds, but yeah. So just doing anything you can to keep fit, because that's another important thing before we go diving, to make sure we're safe and fit enough to go diving. I think that probably just about wraps it up. Really, we've spoken about some of the equipment and some of the things to look at. Some of the things to check, and making sure that you get all your servicing up to date on things like regs and cylinders. So that sort of just about closes it for us, really. Craig, have you got anything else you want to add to that?
Well, the only thing I'd add, Jim, going right back in a circle to where we started and the resources that are available online, our local dive shop, Crystal Seas, are doing knowledge reviews using the same format that you and I are using now on Zoom. And all of the industry is going to need all the support of all the divers out there. And so perhaps now is an opportunity that people might want to take to brush up on their knowledge, think about the next course they might want to take, and get that literature sent out to them, or do it online and do knowledge reviews with their local dive shop, and keep educating as well as looking after your kit.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm actually doing a theory session on Zoom with some students next week.
Excellent. Oh, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be really good. Looking forward to that. I'm not quite sure how it'll work, but I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of us out there, a lot of professionals out there who can do Zoom and can help anyone. So yeah, it's probably a good time to sign up for some courses if you're looking to get sort of further education. There'll be someone out there who can help and do these online theory sessions with you. So yeah, it's a really good point.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think we've come to a natural end there. We're really looking forward to the next episode, which we've already got planned. We did mention previously that Marcus was going to be our next guest, and that still is the case. We now have the technology to do that remotely using Zoom. So we're going to do another episode very soon, and Marcus is going to come in. What I would like to say to everybody is we need your help too. And if you get to the end of this and you like what you've listened to, please share it with your dive buddies. Please click the like button. It only takes a second, and that's the only thing we ask for. And if you watch us on our YouTube channel, please subscribe. Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the best way to support us, is liking, sharing, subscribing, and then we can put out more, and hopefully you'll enjoy them.
Excellent. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.